I know I'll be attacked for saying this, but it's fine. It's the truth. But the men who follow Roland Martin do not tend to be alpha males. They normally tend to be what is called beta males. And I'm not saying this as an insult, but it is what it is. Back in the day, they called them hen pet. They don't wear the pants in their house. Those types of men or LGBTQ men, those are normally the men that follow Roland Martin. Whenever you see an alpha male, a headstrong male, a male who stands on his shit on his show, Roland Martin attacks that man. So this is my observation. Y'all can get mad all y'all want. So when that video was released, it didn't surprise me. You know what I'm saying? If it comes out that it's not real, cool. But for now, until I see that it's not, I believe it because his behavior leads me to believe that's what he likes. And if he likes that, cool. You grown, do what you do. But I'm just saying, Roland Martin is very sassy and alpha males do not follow Roland Martin. When I have men attacking me on behalf of the defense of Roland Martin, I mean, they don't be the most masculine men. That's all.
I don't understand why any masculine man, and it's funny, ain't this is interesting because somebody told me that Roland Martin is an alpha. And when I say alpha, I'm talking about the fraternity, not necessarily saying that he's one of the top dogs. But it is ironic that she's saying this because every man that I have ever ran into that was willing to admit, including the dude that I ran into at the airport, and his wife seemed to be the one that wear the pants. Every man that I've ever run into that has supported Roland Martin or was rocking with Roland Martin was very much a sassy man. 100%. And so that doesn't necessarily, let me clarify for the people in the back. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's gay, but it does mean that he exhibits some of the same tendencies as what it is that the Democratic Party is advocating for. Now, let me qualify this by saying that first of all, let me put a link back to the content creator back in the description of the video because I always like to give credit to the content creators, regardless of whether I agree with them or not. So I'm going to put a link to her video and to her profile back in the description. And then also, Tej Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. You got to get Tej Hanley. A lot of people be asking me, Anton, do you wear makeup? No, I teach every day. That's just real. And then last but not least, make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. We got Stock Club coming up this weekend. We got a mastermind session coming up in 2 weeks. Next week, we got the real estate stuff that's coming up. So if y'all not a part of the Patreon, if you haven't tapped into the Discord, the link to the Discord is in the description of any of the most recent Patreon videos. That link is in the description. But I will say that perhaps it's that most men are not alpha and they are beta males. Because in addition to following Roland Martin, who was basically leading his audience and his demographic off the cliff, I would venture to say maybe it's more women that tend to look to Roland Martin for their political view and take and his views on life than strong men. Because first of all, I see more strong men identifying, not following. We make our own decision based off of the facts and also policies and what makes the most sense for our families. But I think that it's stronger men that tend to roll with Trump. He says what he means what he says. And it's so interesting because you don't have to be agreeable, or we don't have to agree with him with 100% of the things that he says in order for us to remove the emotion and make an informed decision as to he's the best person or he's the best candidate for us. And I hate it when people love other people that pander to them instead of telling them what it is that they really feel, because I can make a better decision as to, okay, me and him align here, me and him don't align here. When I meet him at this point, then it makes sense, or maybe we can do business together, or maybe we can't, or whatever, so on and so forth. If I know who you are, then it's much easier for me to deal with you, regardless of whether I agree with you or not. I don't even want 100% of people that agree with me in my circle, because it's not anybody that I 100% agree with everything that they say. I don't even agree 100% with my mother. You know what I'm saying? So that's not an issue. The issue is, why would you roll with somebody who's clearly a chameleon? I was listening to her Detroit speech, and her her whole accent, her tone switched up, and I guess that was supposed to be some kind of Detroit tone and accent. Why would he go harder for Kamala Harris than it seems like he would go hard for anybody else? Anybody else. And let's be clear, I don't watch his show. I've watched this show a couple times when it was relevant to what it is that I was paying attention to. So like, for example, I was evaluating Tiffany Henyard over in Dalton, Illinois, and he was soft on her. He was so soft on her. And then he tried to come back later because he wasn't as informed as he should have been, and he didn't ask the questions, and he didn't press the issue, and he let her come on the platform and say whatever it is that he wanted to say. Now, the thing about it is that why would you advocate for a party that emasculates black men? That is the weirdest thing ever. Why would you roll out for a party that advocates for the alphabet community and advocates against life when it comes to reproduction and aligning with women's rights and stuff like that? Why would you align with a party who the woman specifically, and see, he never is critical of his candidate. I'm not even sure that he ever said anything negative about her. And again, let me preface this by saying that I don't watch his show. I'm not an avid follower of his show. But I do realize that he got a large audience. But along with that large audience, most men, I would say that most men are followers. Most men have been feminized. Most men today, especially black men, a lot of them have been raised by their mothers in single-parent households. So I get it and I understand it. And they didn't have strong representation and strong fathers in their lives. And so what happens is they depend on him for their rhetoric. But no man that is truly a man of his own and can think for himself and stands up for himself and is not, in her words, henpecked. I have personally never ran into a man that rocks with, and maybe I could say under the age of 50, because I do think that it's a large demographic of older men that messed up this society, that messed up the culture, and lost this country. And they've led us down this path where it's happy wife, happy life. And they are more likely to hand their paychecks over to their wives. That is of his generation. That is of his ilk. And so, again, as she said, I'm not surprised with what popped up. And yes, it was real. Now, the context, y'all can throw whatever context and whatever spin on it that y'all want. But it was real. It did show up. He did not get upset. He didn't say, hey, what the heck is this? And look, I don't give a piss what y'all say. Y'all can say that it's all over Twitter and whatever. That's because your algorithm messed up. I ain't never seen no junk like that on my algorithm. You got to search for it. The worst thing that I've seen on X, formerly known as Twitter, is a fight video that pops up or something like that. That may be popping up in my algorithm or something like that. But in a general sense, that don't just flow in my stuff. Now, maybe it is messed up or something like that, and they just advertising it everywhere, and that's what shows up. But that doesn't show up in my feed. It doesn't show up in my feed. So I do think that it's an argument to be made, and I do think it's interesting that women, black women, are saying that, listen, all of these beta males, they are the ones that he's targeting because their minds is weak and they're easy to manipulate. And it's much, much more difficult to convince somebody that thinks for themselves, that think logically, that this makes the most sense. It's nothing about Kamala Harris or the Democratic Party right there with Billy Porter, Sassy, and Shawshan all on a White House lawn. Is nothing that you can tell me that makes sense as far as why strong men would ever align with the same views as a Roland Martin, let alone a Kamala Harris. Yo, I would never have a woman lead me. I'm never going to pick a woman to lead me or to be the leader of a country that I advocate for. That's crazy. But I'm curious as to what y'all think. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. The best time to join the Patreon is the beginning of the month. Also, Teach Henley, 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. Y'all let me know what y'all think. I'm curious as to what y'all thoughts are. Let me know in the comments. I'm going to read them and I'm going to check them out later. Thanks.